and we'll let her kind of define herself a little bit. I'm going to turn this over now to my assistant, Not Gay Dakota. Dakota, I want you to kind of say a few things about how to share this link while I do the saying. I'm going to share it right now, and you can share it. Tell us where we can share this link, Dakota.
Where we can share this link. What do you mean specifically by that?
Like which platforms we're live on. This is giving me time to share them myself.
Got you. Okay, so
which I'm doing as we speak.
Currently, we're live on Periscope under the iRoots.org page. We are live on Radio Friendly on YouTube and the iRoots.org media news company page on Facebook. And I do see that we're live on all of them, so that's good news.
All right, well, here I am going to Facebook, and let's just see if I can share it there. Hey, I'm on a live podcast. It's like being on a boat. I'm on a boat. There we go.
Let's see if, I don't know if you have the link, Nina, of, but let's just get going here. Well, there's two different ways I encountered Nina Paley, and I think it was through libertarian circles of a video that went viral years ago, Copying is Not Theft. And then years later, I somehow saw a video related to Jordan Peterson, and it was talking about frogs. And then I was like, oh my goodness, this clip of the 10 plagues of Egypt. And that led down a rabbit trail where I saw the work come to be known as Seder Masochism. And that blew me away. And I don't think I connected those two together until maybe a few months later when I Googled her name. And so it's an honor to meet who I consider an extraordinary artist. I've said, whether foolishly or not, and I'm tend to exaggeration, but who I consider one of the best digital artists I've ever seen, Nina Paley. So say hi, Nina, and tell us a little bit about, I'm curious how you define yourself as your role, either as an artist or a thinker.
Gosh, well, thank you. And I think I'm an artist. I'm an animator. People, sometimes I say animation director. It depends on context. When I'm submitting the film to the film festival, I have to say director. Sometimes I say producer because I'm that too. Sometimes I'm a cartoonist. Sometimes I'm an illustrator. Sometimes I'm a writer. Sometimes I'm a scapegoat. A lot of scapegoat lately.
Yeah, I have noticed that, by the way. We don't have to get into that, but that is interesting. First, can you hear me okay, Nina?
Yes.
Okay, just so for some context, you probably get the sense of this. I used to be involved with political activism. I was a big Ron Paul supporter back in the day. I'm less oriented towards hardcore political things, but I loosely come at this from a libertarian perspective, but I'm also a musician, and so I just, more than anything, reacted emotionally to your work. And I definitely want to ask you a little bit about what you might be working on and influences on your work in the past. Of all of your artwork, what are you most proud of?
Oh my gosh, most proud of? Oh man.
A sin of pride.
Oh, golly. Whoa. I would have to think about that a lot. I mean, it's not like I sit around thinking about my past art all the time, I really like it if somebody says that they have been affected or thought about things. I mean, I guess, yeah, I would need to think about that. Most proud of is like what I think is the best. It's hard. I mean, you're asking the creator, right? I mean, I do think Sita Sings the Blues is certainly, it certainly changed things, right? Like it changed my life, and it also changed a lot of people's perception of what was possible. It was at the time, 2008, there were very few animated films directed by just one, or not directed, made by just one person. I mean, I hired actors and I worked with a sound designer, so I wasn't totally alone. But I really did almost everything, and that was unheard of, largely unheard of before that. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
uh, yeah, I don't know. I mean, the most viewed thing, the most popular thing I've ever made is "This Land Is Mine." That's been seen by millions of people or whatever. It has, almost 10 million views just on the one that I uploaded on Vimeo. But because it's free culture, it's on a lot of other platforms as well. So I can't even count. Proud though. I don't know.
What how's the stream look, Dakota? I think we're just going for this. It may be a little jumpy.
It actually, I did get an update that it's live on Facebook. So the stream looks good. It is absolutely nothing has surprised me, thankfully. That is a rare event. So I'm really, really pleased with how it's going.
Okay.
Good.
Now I was interested when I saw Seder Masochism. I saw just a clip of one of the plagues, and then I saw more of it. I was just what got me initially was I love the scene in the Prince of Egypt animated film where Moses dreams in hieroglyphics, and I wondered if you ever saw that scene in the Steven Spielberg produced animated Prince of Egypt film. Have you ever seen that movie, and did you note that scene in hieroglyphics? Did that affect you at all?
Yeah, well, I saw that movie when it came out, but I did not remember the hieroglyphic scene. I actually saw it again last year at this festival in Los Angeles, Animation is Film Festival, where they showed Seder Masochism and Prince of Egypt. So I watched it again.
What a combo.
They didn't play them back to back. And actually I tried to talk to the Prince of Egypt people and they were like, talk to my agent, or, they weren't going to actually talk to me because I was a nobody to them as far as they were concerned. I just wanted to talk about the actual art of it, but too bad.
Yeah, what are your thoughts on that film, on Prince of Egypt?
Oh, Prince of Egypt. Prince of Egypt was a corporate product, a nicely made corporate product, not subversive in any way that I could tell. Very high quality, what it is. Totally unlike the sort of thing that I do. I knew somebody that actually worked on it, just as as one of many artists working on it. It's a quality film. It's a quality, unironic film. It's a serious, thing. I do remember at the Q&A at this festival, they had lots of like religious consultants, right? Whereas I was not going to have a single religious consultant. I don't care. It's my film and my thought, and this is not, like religious people is the last sort of people I want to be consulting with. But they had a whole bunch of them, so they they made it palatable to everybody, which meant that God's voice was male and
Sure.
things like that. But yeah, it's a good, Hollywoodish product. I know that at the time, given the animation industry at the time, that was the beginning of DreamWorks. So it was a big deal that a new studio came into being with this film. And yeah, I'm not a Hollywood. I mean, I'm clearly not Hollywood.
Sure. Yeah. No. I figured. No. I wondered. I noted little distinctive things, like there is a dream in hieroglyphics, and it struck me when I saw that, like, I bet Egyptians did dream in hieroglyphics, and that was just a little piece of it that I really loved. This idea that someone might dream in ancient Egypt in these moving pictograms, and then I don't know why, I find this connection with the power of this two-dimensional figure that you seem to love, and I wonder. I also wanted to ask you a little bit about the nature of the image. I find your work to be very impactful
Actually,
terms
can
of
I just,
it's deceptively simple.
I just want to interject something
Go ahead.
here with hieroglyphics. If you're talking about any story set in Egypt, any artist working on that is going to want to use hieroglyphics. It just like goes without saying. It's like that's the art of Egypt or ancient Egypt, and it's beautiful, and you've just got to use it. So
Absolutely,
it's not like it's sort of a no-brainer that you use that art with the story.
Mm-hmm. I'm curious. I myself am a Christian, and I consider myself sort of a conservative-leaning Christian, but I'm still deeply moved by your work. Do you find other Christians have that kind of response to your work? Have you experienced that, or am I alone in that?
I hope you're not alone in that. When I made Seder Masochism, my choice of that story was because it's in all of the Abrahamic religions. It's a Christian story, and it's also a Muslim story. So, Moses is named in the Quran. What did they say? They say he's named either almost as much as Muhammad or more than Muhammad, something like that. Like it's foundational story of the Quran, and the Old Testament is the Jewish scripture. So as far as I'm concerned, they're the same. There's no difference. Christians and Jews actually use the same literature in their scripture, and Muslims use a rewrite of it, but it's the same stories. And I tried really hard to point that out in Seder Masochism, and a lot of people didn't get it, but that was the point. Like, this is not a Jewish story. For some reason, Jews are the only ones that still observe Passover, but there's a commandment to observe Passover. Like, you're supposed to observe it too. Everyone's supposed to observe it to commemorate this Exodus, but Jews are the only ones that traditionally do.
Mm-hmm. I have no idea if I'm going to be able to share this clip. I just want to attempt it, and so I hope you'll bear with me as I'm going to try to play like about 60 seconds of the Angel of Death scene. So let's see if it'll work.
It comes.
Oh, this is not right. Spoiler alert, I'm going to play a clip of David Lynch to you.
David Lynch, awesome.
Well, let's just go with it. Let's just stick to David Lynch.
This is how it's going.
The David Lynch.
A little bit of John Cage here.
David Lynch Passover.
Chance operations. So let's play a link of about 60 seconds from David Lynch.
Like on a TV in your mind.
He's being asked, how do ideas come?
And you hear it and you know it.
How does it come?
It comes like on a TV in your mind.
You know, there's a line I've always loved of Leonard Cohen. He said, if I knew where the good songs came from, I would go there more often.
Absolutely. People we don't do anything without an idea. So they're beautiful gifts. And I always say you desiring an idea is like a bait on a hook.
Yeah.
It can pull them in. And if you catch an idea that you love, that's a beautiful, beautiful day. And you write that idea down so you won't forget it. And that idea that you caught might just be a fragment of the whole, whatever it is you're working on. But now you have even more bait. Thinking about that small fragment, that little fish, will bring in more. And they'll come in and they'll hook on. And more come in, and pretty soon you might have a script, or a chair, or a painting, or an idea for a painting.
But they come as in small...
More often than not, small fragments. I like to think of it as in the other room, the puzzle is all together. but they keep flipping in just one piece at a time.
In the other room.
Over there.
In a sense, David, there's always another room somewhere.
That's a beautiful thing to think about.
Let's think about it a bit.
No, you think about it.
Okay, I'm trying to come back. My computer seems to be a little frozen. Are you guys? Great, my computer's frozen. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you just fine.
Yeah.
Okay, Zoom is not responding. This is not a good sign, but I can keep talking. I take it. Yeah, I turned on force quit and it says Zoom is not responding. So that's sad. Let's see if it'll fix. What are your thoughts on that, Nina?
Well, I think of ideas like sperm, and that there are millions of them. And there's no shortage of ideas. There are far more ideas than will ever be executed, vastly more. And the work is in the actual execution. It's not really the ideas. It hurts me a little bit when an artist is like, oh, ideas, because it gives people this idea that, you know, artists are looking for ideas. And we're not. We have shit tons of ideas. We have more ideas. You know, the question is, which idea are you going to actually sit down and put the effort into actually making and bringing to completion? So I still get emails, still, where people are like, I have this great idea and you should, you know, you're an artist. Artists are looking for ideas, right? Here's mine. You'd like to make mine. And to me, that's like some guy like jizzing at you, you know, without your consent, is some guy that just thinks that you really want his jizz. And it's like, no, I got plenty of ideas. Really, we all do. This is, you know, choosing them, that's tough. And, you know, once you do choose one, yeah, then there's this, you know, once you're committed to it, then you are communing with the muse. Then you are, you know, getting your instructions from elsewhere. This is not generated by you, but there's no shortage of seed to start with.
Oh, that's interesting. I was going to ask about the muse because I did hear your muse prayer in the Jordan Peterson interview, which was really interesting. Where did you come across that? Did you write that yourself?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the Lord's Prayer I know from certain meetings I attended. And yeah, I just that's what it was like. Yeah. Now I have to say that my muse, which was so, I felt like I had such a contact with her while I was making Sita Sings the Blues. I haven't really had anything like that since. You know, she doesn't, very, very seldom do I feel like I'm whacked upside the head and absolutely have to make this thing. I mean, one reason is I'm, you know, a pretty happy, content, and relaxed person now, and I don't have this compulsion that I used to have to make art. And I think that's fine. But I still make it. I enjoy it. It's very, I feel very, how can I say it? I feel protected when I'm actually making art. Like all of the things in life that can be upsetting and troubling, they just don't matter if I'm really engaged in something. I don't worry about money. I don't worry about, you know, plague or whatever, people dying, all this stuff that is part of life. It's just when you're working on the thing, you know, all you care about is the thing, and you gradually make it and it's satisfying.
Yeah, I know what you mean to an extent, but I come at it from a musical standpoint. But when I'm trying to finish a piece, it's like that's the focus. I'm in the zone, like the I don't know, what do they call it? I escaped my mind, but there's a really cool word for it that makes you sound smarter than you're actually trying to be. Aaron, you're currently muted. Do you want to? No, you're not. There we go.
Okay,
wanna
yeah,
go?
I had to get out. I think I had Wi-Fi here, so I apologize for that. I had to force quit this, so I missed a little bit of that. But I take it you jive a little bit with what David Lynch was saying there, that this he said he was going to say something about it's like there's a man in another room throwing in pieces of a puzzle. What are your thoughts on that? And did you already respond to that?
It's so funny. You didn't hear. I said that ideas are like sperm, and that there's
Yes,
like
no,
millions.
I heard that, and then it cut off. Yeah.
Millions of them. There's no shortage of ideas, and that we're not looking for ideas. It's choosing what idea and committing to that, and execution is the hard part. It's not finding ideas. And so yeah, if there's some man trying to jizz on me in the other room, it's like, no, I don't need it. I've got plenty. Thank you very much.
Okay.
But I still
I want to make a
what I can relate to, though, is the experience that artists have where we are interacting with something outside of ourselves or beyond ourselves. That is a common thing, and I absolutely experience that. I'm sure you experience that as well. However you describe it, creation is when it's going right, you are dealing with something greater than yourself, outside yourself. Maybe it feels like it's in the next room, but it's not going to feel like your ego. If it feels like your ego, that's when it's bad. That's when you're like tense and it's like pulling teeth and too much responsibility, and it doesn't go well.
And I think that that's something I experienced in your work, that even though we have major differences in ideology and religion and our take on things, what I am responding to, it seems like you're walking beautifully, and maybe you just happen to do this line. There's this line where we all know what it feels like when we're watching propaganda versus something that is joyous and an expression of something, and even if we disagree with it, it's invigorating. And I'm fascinated if you see that difference. I'm trying to think of a quote that I've heard from Camille Paglia, but I can't remember it. But it was something along that line of like, in the postmodern era, we've reached a time where in our mind we're constantly just tearing down and criticizing things, and that prevents many of us from just entering into the thing and enjoying it for what it is. I think she's talking about some rock and roll song when she felt a division with the feminists of her era, who were just they were criticizing the song, and she may theoretically agree with them, but she was like, there's something you're missing here in what art is. I have you ever heard that quote from her? I can't name
I
it.
haven't heard that quote, but actually you're making me think about Robert Crumb. I did this podcast a couple nights ago, and we talked about, you're familiar with Robert Crumb, right? The cartoonist. Are you familiar with Robert Crumb?
The name rings a bell, but
okay.
Who
Robert Crumb is this famous underground comics cartoonist. He was part of Zap Comics.
Yeah, no, I do.
And the thing is, his art is just beautiful, and a lot of it, well, some of it was like legit misogynistic, and it was still beautiful, still really compelling to me, right? Like my eyes just ate his art up, and it didn't matter if it was a picture of him dunking a woman's head in a toilet, which is horrible. It's horrible, but the art was also really beautiful. So yeah, I can totally hold both of those at the same time, and it's entirely possible to go like, wow, I don't really like this guy's message. Although his to be honest, he was I don't feel like he was putting out misogynist propaganda.
It was somewhat ironic, right?
It's not that it was ironic, it was that he was drawing his id, basically. He was drawing his sexual fantasies, and that's what he had, and he knew they were pretty messed up. but he drew them anyway. And it's very complicated, right? Because you know that there's other people that are getting off to it, and that makes it very complicated. But when you say like some stuff is propaganda, it's like I don't think that's what his art is. You know, I think it's like an actual honest expression of what's going on in his twisted psyche, and it's, you know, it was beautiful no matter how repugnant the content was ideologically or, you know, intellectually.
I wonder if part of why, especially in Seder Masochism, the piece is able to ride that line, is because to some extent it felt to me like you yourself were exploring how you felt about it, and maybe I'm reading into that, and you felt more settled in your view.
I didn't feel settled in my view at all. The whole making of that movie was just like groping around in the dark. I didn't know what the point of it was. I knew when I started that, well, my father was dying, right? And before I started production, he did die. So he died just a couple months after that recording that I made of him. But I mean, things after Sita Sings the Blues, there was this complaint about Sita Sings the Blues that as a white Christian woman, they just assume that all Americans are Christian. So like, this white Christian woman is denigrating our Hindu whatever, and how dare she? And how would you like it if someone made a movie about your religion, blah, blah. And there's this idea that we're only allowed to make art based on some heritage that's, you know, like a genetic heritage or something, right? Like I have to stay in my lane, and my lane is established by my ancestors. So I was like, all right, you want this? I'll do this. I'll do the thing in my lane. I'll do the thing about being Jewish. Fine. But I had no real attachment to Jewish identity, and not religious, and never really cared about it. But I was like, what the hell? And, you know, my dad is dying, and I'd like to explore my relationship with my dad and where my dad came from. And I've never really talked to him about this, and let's just do that. So that's where I started. And boy, the more I read the Old Testament, to be honest, the more I read it, the more atheist I became. Like, I was actually a lot more spiritually leaning, or I was a lot, like when my dad was dying, he was pretty hardcore atheist. So like at the hospital, this chaplain would come around and say, you know, would anybody want any help? Anyone need to talk? And I was like, yeah, I'd like to talk. My dad was like, no, get out of here. Right. And so to honor his wishes was like, okay, I won't be talking to the chaplain, but I could have used some of that, you know? And I will say that I came to understand my father's atheism a lot more by really delving into this stuff. Since that time, since I worked on this, because I have not actually had my face in the Old Testament for a couple of years, I'm actually positively disposed towards religion. I think religions are necessary. I think humans need them. I think humans benefit from them. And I think that old religions have had a really long time to settle in with humans. And I feel that I believe that religions offer like a kind of mimetic protection to humans. Humans need them. And if you get rid of them, something far more malignant religious pattern will emerge that a long lasting religion has already like worked out and become more benign. I can go into that more if you want to talk about that, because I think about this stuff a lot.
This is a really interesting topic.
Yeah, religion.
Well,
Go
religion,
ahead, Tokata.
non-religious religion is an interesting topic to me. It like you were saying, something interesting to me was the way that the new atheist movement took on a religious move, like
Yes. Oh
yeah,
my
right?
God, yes. Or oh
And
my non-God, yes.
it seems like anytime you take away like a formalized, what people would consider religion, another religion of some sort comes up, and like you said, it tends to be, it takes time to figure out answers to the most difficult questions in life in a systematic way, and to have thousands of years of a head start is a very good thing, because some of the answers that you can come up with off the top of your head are very dangerous ideas, obviously.
Yeah, and if you look at the Old Testament, like our values today, people who are Jewish today, they don't obey the Old Testament, right? Like you're supposed to stone people, you're supposed to stone adulterers, and rules are they're really strict. And you're supposed to smash idols. More than anything, you're supposed to smash idols. So what are we doing right now? Well, there's an idol of me on this screen. There's an idol of you on this screen. This is like pure idolatry. We're, transacting images, just all hell's broken loose, right? So the amount of time that has passed, people have softened on that. They've just gone like, nah. Like I imagine when this stuff was written, people were very zealous about it, but some stuff just does not work. And so people drop it over the years, and they don't make a big deal about it. They just are not practicing it, and they focus on the stuff that's working for them and not the stuff that's not working for them. And people aren't screaming and yelling about it. It's fine. So that's what I mean about giving it a long time. Like it softens and becomes more gentle and livable. And also like over a long period of time, people come to accept that not everyone believes the same thing. I realize that conflicts keep happening, but like enough time has passed, so it's very unusual. Like you're probably during this podcast not going to tell me that I'm a filthy sinner and I'm going to hell, right? That's
Aaron scratched that question.
Okay. Well, we could do that, but
you could.
But I would have to say that I am as well, right? If I know.
Yeah. Well, anyways, like I have not accepted Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior, and I think you can handle that. I think it's okay, and I think we can talk about other things, right? Whereas when there's a new religion, people are super zealous. They don't have, I'm saying that, of course, the new religion I'm talking about is genderism, where I have been basically, I am regularly called a sinner who's going to hell, pretty much, not in so many words. The words they use is fucking asshole. And they seem very free about it, and that like you're born a fucking asshole, and the only way you can be redeemed is to accept that identity, salvation through identity, and that identity trumps reality. And if you don't accept that, then you're just, a horrible, you're a Nazi, bigot.
Say the creeds and repent.
Yeah, say the creeds and repent. And it's just like, no, I don't do that. And so they hate it. And it just reminds me of the corner preacher that's just screaming at everybody. And I'm like, this is a kind of zealousness that I've never seen before, actually. Mm-hmm. I mean, I guess I had kind of seen it before, because I'm old enough that I do remember little groups of fundamentalist Christians who would be really aggressive. And, we did have the campus quad preacher here at the U of I forget what his name was. And he would, stand up and yell at people, and people would laugh at him. But this is the first time that I've seen this huge movement where people who really should know better are basically screaming that people are sinners yeah, I need to repent. And that comes, I think, from people's deep, profound need for religion that they're just not getting.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, since you went there, I appreciate you approaching the subject. Yeah, I've been fascinating. I've been seeing. I live in Bloomington, Indiana, and I've been seeing somebody at IU was sending me clips of internal videos, and they even include like. I joked that it sounded like a sorceress was involved at the end of the video, but it was someone who called herself a priestess who was doing a chant about Breonna Taylor, who, by the way, I think it was terrible what happened to her. But yeah, I've seen a religious zeal in this kind of campus activism. I didn't know you were as involved in that, but I figured you kind of saw this growing movement. I wonder sometimes, I don't know what that Nietzsche quote is, that which is about to fail deserves to be pushed. Do you think it's good to watch academia fall apart, or do you think things are salvageable?
Wow. I guess I guess I have a lot of vengeful desires. I would like to see it fall apart. Sorry.
I do notice your love of apocalyptic art, which I think I share. Do you mind telling me a little bit about, like, I guess over the last year and a half, you've been depicting the Whore of Babylon and the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse, and what drew?
Yeah, so that's an unfinished project, and it hasn't been for a year and a half. It started this year with the pandemic. Because I would be saying, like, how's your apocalypse going? And things felt very apocalyptic in March. And like, I had never seen humans, I've never seen a shutdown before. Like, I've watched all kinds of crises occur, particularly environmental crises, and the extinction of all these species, and people don't really seem to care or take notice, or is like, yeah, what, all right, the Earth's heating up, yeah, well, we got to sell shoes, so let's not make any changes. That's the first time I've ever seen humans actually stop or respond to a crisis. Coincidentally, the previous years have been so hellish for me in terms of the way I have been scapegoated and just sort of sacrificed for not towing the party line, for not participating in wokeism. And the thing is that I come from, I live in a liberal town. My background is liberal. My friends are all liberal. They're good liberals, family's good liberals. So, I've been sort of ejected and I'm politically homeless now, but this has been just extremely traumatic. And being called a, bigot and a Nazi, and watching people who were my people sort of express contempt for freedom of speech, shut down dialogue, behave in these ways. And, like they banned my movie here. They, like, the art theater banned my movie. I'm the only filmmaker in the world that was banned, and done with such religious righteousness by these groups of people who used to be my friends. I just,
Wow.
Not very liberal.
It's liberal now. I mean, I use that bad word that bad Republican dude coined, the lib tard, I say.
Yeah. So now you are alt-right adjacent, I assume.
Oh
Does
yeah,
that
I'm
get
in
thrown
total.
in?
It's like, no, I'm homeless. I'm homeless now. I'm just politically homeless. But
Yeah,
boy,
like we're like.
it's made me
Go
rethink
ahead.
the way I demonized people before. I would just, I was like not thinking about the things, if somebody, if there was like any resistance to some issue, to some law or something that I supported, I would be like, oh, well, that's because they hate gay people, right? Like, or the only possible reason people could oppose abortion is that they hate women. I do think that woman hating is deeply entrenched in that, but I also think, no, it's actually possible, that people have other reasons for opposing it. And it's, it's not like a simple clean cut thing. But in terms of like, I would be so quick to say that people hated gays or that they hated Black people or that they, that the only possible motivation was hate, right? Like if they didn't want what I wanted, it had to be because they were hateful. And now I know, like, oh, I was wrong. That things are actually complicated, and
I hope you'll forgive me for getting into the copyright abolition movement, because that's why I reached out to you, and I feel like I've pulled a lot of your time here. Do you mind talking about that a little bit? I want to ask you, I intuitively agree with you, but I haven't really explored it myself. Are you still a copyright abolitionist?
Absolutely.
And do you see that tied to, how do I ask this? I may have jumped in with the question before I had it formulated to an appropriate degree.
Go for it, Dakota. Think about it.
Oh boy, here we go. All right, I'm gonna do this. We're doing this live. So there's an element of criticism that I see in Seder Masochism to an extent, like on multiple fronts. I saw somebody point out, so that it's not coming from me myself, but an element of criticizing the patriarchal element of religion in the Middle East, and the copyright stuff. I wonder, do you see connected to that a critique of, is it a problem with capitalism? Like, I don't know. Can you help me with this at all? Either of you two? Sorry. I should have thought long.
Yeah, should have thought more. So you may be familiar with Stefan Kinsella's book Against Intellectual Property. I don't know if either of you have read that. There's a libertarian, very strong libertarian argument against copyright. And these people are not against capitalism by any measure. So it's not anti-capitalist in the slightest. It's in many ways, well, it's pro-free market, right? Like if you're a free market capitalist, you're going to oppose artificial monopolies, and copyright is an artificial monopoly. So you can easily criticize it on those grounds. There was several years ago, there was a report put out by a young Republican writer for a Republican committee that was very critical of copyright. And this was controversial, and he was kicked out of the Republican Party pretty quickly. I forget what his name was, but I remember seeing this thing going like, this is interesting, right? In terms of copyright legislation, Democrats have passed horrible copyright laws, and so have Republicans. And Democrats seem to be a lost cause, but there was like a month where it's like, oh, maybe the Republicans will start, maybe some Republicans will start opposing this because it is so contrary to free market principles. But yeah, he got booted.
So would you say, not that you have to identify yourself as a libertarian, but do you approach this as, in a capitalist framework, your critique of intellectual property rights?
I don't really, no, I don't, I personally don't, but I think Stefan Kinsella's book is fantastic and y'all should read it. And I am certainly not hostile to commerce. not at all. I mean, if there's going to be commerce, it should be unburdened by this artificial monopoly. It's just going to work better. You know, competition is an important principle of what makes commerce work, or, you know, we make a lot of sacrifices in capitalism, and we're supposed to get a few benefits, and one of those benefits is supposed to come from competition. So I am opposed to artificial monopolies.
So some of the pushback that, you know, that I get from my roommates or whoever I bring this up with, that, you know, I tend to agree with you, but it's more based on gut. I'm like, oh, yeah, that makes sense to me, and I don't even really have to think about it, but I really think I should think more deeply about it, is they'll say, you know, like, well, okay, so say I write a book and I'm just going to put my name on it and claim it's my book. What would you say to that critique? Like, could I take a book by Nina Paley and put Aaron Jones on it and then sell it?
I would say to that the copyright lobby has been very successful in confusing people about what copyright is, because the copyright lobby actually tried to get people to associate it with plagiarism, and it's not. Plagiarism is not solved by copyright. It's not addressed by copyright. But people associate it with it. So good job, copyright lobby. I did a minute meme about this called, I think we called it Credit is Due. Always give credit where credit is due. If you didn't write it, don't say it's by you. Just copy the credit along with the work, or else you'll come off as an ignorant jerk. Or maybe arrogant jerk. I don't know, but the idea is that the community will find this out very easily. So yes, you are welcome to take my book and put your name on it and be a laughingstock. Go for it.
Yeah. Yeah. So I agree with that. It seems like you're saying there'd be a social stigma on anyone who would do this.
Yes.
In the marketplace of ideas, right?
Yes. But if anything, if there's any legal means of protecting yourself against plagiarism, that would probably be trademark, right? Like if somebody did that and I was going to challenge them in court, it would probably be a trademark thing rather than a copyright thing. Somebody impersonating me. That's fraud. So copyright really is not about that. Copyright, most copyright infringement involves no plagiarism whatsoever. Copyright infringement, like if you make an illegal copy of let's say a Lady Gaga record, right? You're not pretending to be Lady Gaga when you do that. You're just making an illegal copy. Nobody is confused about the authorship of the work. It's just you are not legally permitted to make a copy.
That's a really good distinction.
I want to ask you a question, digging into this perhaps. Does your desire to abolish copyright maybe stem from a desire to elevate the act of creation and performance by the artist rather than the thing or the commodity?
Did you say commodity? The thing or the commodity? Okay, so fundamentally, culture is not property. Culture is not a commodity. It is, if anything, it's like anti-property. I don't know. I don't really care about elevating it or what. It's simply not property. That's not what it is. It has none of the properties of property. It becomes, what did I say? I did an article, culture is anti-rivalrous. So I don't know if you're familiar with the libertarian idea of, or just the economic idea of rivalrous goods, rivalrous resources.
Yeah, but I think it would be helpful to explain still for our audience.
Yeah, okay. So, the reason, according to some economists, that we have property at all is to reduce conflict over rivalrous goods, rather than everybody fighting over everything all the time. We go like, okay, this house or whatever belongs to this person and this field belongs to that. Actually, I don't even know if houses and land are a good idea, but they're rivalrous goods, right? Like this chair that I'm sitting in, if you were sitting in this chair, I could not sit in it. So if there's only one chair and there's two of us and we want to sit, we are going to have conflict. So theoretically, property laws and rules and norms reduce conflict by establishing ownership. That's my understanding of it. You should really talk to a libertarian economist or any economist about that. But the thing about culture is it's not rivalrous, right? Like if I sing this song and then you sing it, you have not taken away my song. In fact, you have increased the reach of my song, which as an artist, I really like. That benefits me as an artist. Certainly if I'm making art because I want to put ideas into the world, then anybody sharing it is helping me because I care about the art more than I care about, I did all the work to put it in the world. So of course I want it to spread as much as possible.
Yeah, there's something important to you in what you created that you want to share with people. So however it gets out, that's the most important thing to you.
To me, yeah. But again, I know it's not property.
No.
I didn't always know that, but I know it now.
I would imagine you know more about the history of copyright law than we do. I've always just assumed that 200 years ago, these laws didn't exist. Is that correct?
No, they didn't exist as they exist now, but they did exist. So I think the Statute of Anne is referred to as earliest copyright law. I'm not sure it actually is. This was an English law. Oh man. See, you should talk to Carl Fogel. If you go to the site questioncopyright.org and search for history of copyright, he wrote a fantastic history of it. The first copyright laws were created to eliminate seditious materials from being published. So you had a monarchy, and the advent of the printing press was very disruptive, right? Like the Reformation happened shortly after the printing press. Even though the printing press was funded by Catholics, because different Catholic groups were trying to have their preferred Bible become the dominant Bible. And some of them realized when Gutenberg was developing movable type that if they developed this technology ahead of everybody else, that their preferred Bible would become the dominant Bible because they would be able to produce so many copies of it so much more quickly than the others. So it was funded by Catholics, but shortly after it was created, it was used to print seditious materials, such as those by Martin Luther, and it was instrumental in bringing about the Reformation, which was bad news for Catholics.
And be careful of the weapons you create and how they can be used against you.
Yes, or just the technologies, we don't think of it as a weapon. I, of course, am watching parallels play out with the advent of the internet the advent and then the dominance of the internet in the last 30 years. It's like things are going right according to schedule, including witch hunts, because witch hunts accompanied the Reformation, the Enlightenment, and the printing press.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, right, we're right on schedule. Right, that's why I'm a scapegoat now.
Hey,
Yeah.
It's getting to be, I know I just looked at the clock. It's 9 o'clock. I don't want to take too much of your time. I have some goofy questions to wind down. Are you game for the goofy period?
Sure.
I don't know if it's been goofy enough. Okay, so, well, let me just get this out of the way. You wake up in the morning, and apparently God exists because he's at your bedside, and he says, Nina, either you live and all the whales die, or you die and all the whales live. What would you choose? Would you die for all the whales?
I would die. Yeah. But you know, it's
Okay.
easy for me to choose that because I'm 52 years old now, right? If I were 20, it would be a lot harder.
Okay. If I exchanged any other animal like ants or slugs, would the answer change at all?
Well, if all the ants died, everything would die because ants are like a real foundational species to everything else. So that would be like a real catastrophe for all life on Earth. So I think I would have to.
True. High five, Nina. I agree with you. Why did you agree to this interview?
I don't have much going on. It was like, and I did this really fun podcast a couple days ago. This guy I know, Lev Polyakov, he'd been trying to get me on his podcast for a while. And I was like, yeah, you know, it's a pandemic. It's getting cold. I'm not doing much. Sure. And it was fun. And so you asked me like the day after I did that. And I was like, yeah, it was fun. And, you know, we can't really hang out with
I don't know if it was
life.
that fun, but I know. This has been a thrill for me. I'm a huge fan of your work. I find it. I don't want to like be all fangirlish here, but also like last crazy question. I'm sure I can come up with more, but let's have the apocalypse question since we love the apocalypse. Let's say the Yellowstone caldera is about to explode. You have 24 hours. Civilization may collapse for the next 100 years. So you have a box to preserve 10 books in. Can you give me 5 books that you would preserve or documents that you would preserve in a box for future whoever survives?
Oh man. No.
Okay, what are your favorite movies? We'll make it dumb.
Well, they're all my own. I mean, I don't like this idea.
Okay, yeah.
This idea of like me being responsible for the culture of other people. Like people have created the culture they deserve, I guess. You know, like they've elected the president they deserve. I'm an outlier. So who am I to speak for the mass of humanity? They're just not going to like what I like. Some percentage of people's going to like what I like, but the future belongs to them, you know, whoever survives. Maybe they'll just be incredibly stupid, horrible people that I can't stand. And, you know, the culture that survives is going to be the most vile stuff. And so be it. It's just not something I can control, so I don't really think about controlling it.
Dakota, do you have any ending questions?
Actually, I'm so pleased with the way this went. This was an amazing interview. And everything I was going to ask got answered along the way. So I feel so satisfied.
Aw, that's great. Thank you.
Nina, where's the best place for people to take in your work to follow what you do?
That's a great question. I mean, they can start at my blog, ninapaley.com. But really, if they want to see my movies, they should watch my movies. They should watch Sita Sings the Blues, which you can find at sitastingstheblues.com, and Seder Masochism, sedermasochism.com. You can, there's a download thing there that has links. But I do a lot of stuff, you know, I do comics and I do these $100 drawings and I make quilts and, you know, I've lived a while, so I've got quite an accumulation of stuff.
I love the masks. I hope those did those sell well for you? You had these Angel of Death masks that were from Seder Masochism. How did they sell?
They sold fine. They're a real pain to make. So actually, I'm not even promoting them because they're kind of more work to make than it's kind of not even worth the money. I did them because it's like, okay, I have this design, I have this idea, I'm gonna, bring it to fruition, make it real, but I just don't want to be a mask factory. It's work, and I like not working.
We could get a sweatshop together for you, and maybe you could like manage the sweatshop of children to make these masks. Have you considered that?
Well, I'd rather you managed it. It's free culture.
I'll get to work on that.
It's free culture.
Yes.
So you could start your own sweatshop even without my permission. And if all these Angel of Death masks go out in the world, that's fine with me.
Gotta get it through my head. I hope we can talk again. I'm gonna just mention it in passing. Did you see this story about this incredible find? I guess they knew about it in Colombia. 10,000 plus pictographs or something of ancient Ice Age rock art in Colombia.
Like a huge wall, right?
Yeah, on 8 miles of it apparently.
I saw that, but I have not delved deeply into it. I just saw like, a couple pictures and the headline. Yeah,
I was excited to I can't wait to see more. Apparently there's a BBC documentary coming out on it. I love ancient work like that, and I was curious, are you a fan of that? Maybe it's just because of my bias of the way you used imagery in Seder Masochism, but are you a fan of ancient cave art in general?
Sure, yeah. Although I got into it because I made that movie, right? And I had to depict the prehistoric goddess somehow. So I looked at the books of Maria Gimbutas. But now that the movie's done, I'm not seeking more of it. There's so much art in the world. I mean, there's so much to be interested in. It's just like such a big world full of so many interesting things. And my focus just sort of goes, toward it doesn't stay on everything forever. I mean, I had my time of really focusing on that, but now I'm looking at bicycle posters because I want to make a movie about recumbent bicycles.
Nina, do you have Spotify or a source that you share playlists? I was curious, not that you would have to share this publicly. I did see a playlist that included what claimed to be the soundtrack for Seder Masochism. And I shared that on my Twitter feed. I figured I wanted to promote that because I know I was enjoying it while driving today.
I was really happy somebody made that. When I saw it, I was like, it's great. But no, I don't actually use those things. And but no, it's cool when it's cool someone did that.
Cool. Well, let's wrap up. I hope we can talk again in the future. Anyway, ninapaley.com. Is that right?
Yep.
I know on Facebook you're really active. It's a great way to see how you get yourself in trouble.
I'm active until I'm banned, until I'm sent to Facebook jail. It didn't happen this time. It was pretty close to happening, because what happens is these people, they do mass reports. They'll just mass report something as spam or something as hate speech. And something that was like not hate speech at all got reported as hate speech. And I was like, what? And when that happens, you're just automatically banned and there's nothing you can do about it. So I'm kind of surprised that didn't happen this time.
Yeah,
but it could.
Absolutely.
And I use Facebook too much and it's bad. And we should all leave Facebook and Facebook. Actually, we shouldn't all leave Facebook. Facebook should be shut down so that none of us have to make the sacrifice before anybody else. We should all just go together at the same time by having it disappear. But until it's disappeared, that's where people are. So I'm there too.
Okay. Well, God bless you. Thank you for your work. Happy Hanukkah, and have a great. Let's have a great New Year before the aliens arrive on the White House lawn. I wondered if you thought that would happen for the end of the year.
The aliens are going to arrive on the White House lawn?
Yeah. Do you think that's possible?
I didn't know about this. Do I think it's possible? Well, anything's possible, but
I don't know. Well.
Oh, they just pulled our stream down, Aaron. I'm kidding.
Okay.
Because we mentioned the conspiracy.
The conspiracy. Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, I'm not up on all this stuff.
I'm just kidding. Yeah.
Well, thank you again for joining us. And I can't wait to see what new work you have, whether it's bicycle posters or whatever.
All right. Thanks very much.
Yeah.